What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Eddie Knight. Welcome back to Nerdy Before It Was Cool, where we nerd out about TV and film. So I took to my community post to ask about some news beats or TV shows in general that a lot of people wanted me to watch. I seen a lot of posts for some CW shows like The Flash, and a lot of you wanted me to talk about Superman and Lois, but I'm already kind of working on videos for those two topics, so I was looking for something a little different. A lot of people asked about my thoughts on some of the Star Wars franchise movies and series, but I gotta be honest, guys, I haven't watched the Star Wars movies since the 90s. How old are you? And it's not because I don't like Star Wars, it's just simply because as I got older and older, so much Star Wars media, from comics to TV shows, animated shows, and all this crap just kept coming out, and it just seemed like a daunting task to try to catch up. So I'll make y'all a deal. Y'all suggest me some stuff down in the comments to watch from Star Wars that I don't have to go back and watch 100 movies to understand, that I can just watch as its own contained thing and enjoy, and I'll watch it and I'll review it. And by the way, man, I woke up to this gift from my lady with a little baggie that said congrats on 30K. Almost made your boy tear up, but I didn't, because I'm a thug, you feel me? As I sip my green tea with lemon and honey extract, because, you know, that's what thugs do. I scoured the internet for articles who named their top 20, their top 10, their top 15 CW shows. But I picked what seemed to be the most popular article, which is one from a company called Paste, who is similar to like a CBR or a Screen Rant that talks about movies, TV shows, video games, and things of that nature. We're gonna go over their list, talk about which ones I agree with, which ones I don't, and just go over this top 15 list in general because, hey, why not? At number 15, they have The Vampire Diaries. Look, man, I'm gonna be honest. I've only watched a few episodes of this thing. It wasn't particularly my cup of tea.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I wasn't a big part of the huge vampire craze. As the person wrote in this article, it's kind of like Dawson's Creek with vampires. A lot of angsty teens with vampire abilities, but I understand this show has a big following. And to my knowledge, it's in the same world and lore as the originals as well as Legacies. Personally, I enjoyed Legacies and the originals a lot more than I enjoyed Vampire Diaries. I haven't seen much of the originals, only like maybe 10 episodes total. But from what I saw, I liked, and I've watched pretty much all but the last season of Legacy. Pretty much went along with a typical CW formula. Season 1, pretty freaking solid. Season 2, good, but a rehash of season 1 in a lot of ways. And season 3, shit gets wacky. But anyways, moving on. I don't agree or disagree. I just don't really have enough knowledge of the show or investment in that show to really care. But I know it has a huge fan base, so sure. Ooh, number 14, they have Smallville. Now, to the Smallville fans, I'm sure this is a little bit of a slight to you, because a lot of you Smallville fans on my page list Smallville as the best offering from the CW period all across the board. Now, if you've been following my channel, you know that I didn't watch Smallville growing up, but just here recently over the past few months, I started watching the show. Although I missed out on this series growing up, I can kind of see why people liked it so much for back then. I mean, watching season 1, which is a 2001 show, and it's very clear this was made in 2001 from the music and the style and the iconic title sequence. Somebody say! Tom Welling is really believable as this version of Clark Kent. Michael Rosenbaum is clearly the best live action Lex Luthor, and I haven't even seen him get into his evil bag yet. He hasn't quite surpassed the animated series Lex Luthor for me yet, but I can clearly see he probably will as the series goes on. I honestly would probably rank it a little higher, you know, maybe around that top 10 range. I don't know if I would have it all the way at 14, but hey, it's not my list. I agree with one so far, disagree with one so far. Let's get into number 13. At number 13, they got Superman and Lois. I'm working on a video for Superman and Lois, so I don't want to say too much of my thoughts in this film, but I do really enjoy the show. It's pretty much a oshposh of all other Superman. Whether it be like the wholesome likability of Dean Cain or the charm from the 70s movies, the pure just innocence of Brandon Routh, and it even takes notes from the Zack Snyder version of Superman. This show is literally just a love letter to every version of Superman that's came out before it. I think the best thing going for this series is it's so disconnected from the Arrowverse, so it can kind of act as its own new thing. I will say, man, that suit is god awful. That suit is trash. That suit is doo-doo. That suit is hot dog water. It is dumpster juice terrible. I personally prefer the suit that he had when he featured on Supergirl. Like, sure, it made him look a little smaller and he didn't look as bulky as normally a Superman would, but I thought it was a perfect fit and it looked way more quality. I would rather it look good on him than to put him in a muscle suit. Anyways, solid show. Surprised they put it on this list since it's so new and everything else has multiple seasons. But hey, if you're gonna put it on this list, I feel that's a good place to put it at number 13. You're not stepping on the toes of shows with longer runtime history, just paying respect to something that is clearly pretty damn great. So coming in at 12, we got Reaper, just coming out 1 year after the CW's creation in 2006 and 2007. It only had 2 seasons. I vaguely remember this show, but I don't remember a lot, but I do remember it being extremely freaking funny. So for my comic book nerds, this isn't a comic book series, but just think dark sitcom meets Ghost Rider. So the show's about this kid named Sam Oliver, and if I remember correctly, when he turned 18, a lot of power started to manifest, kind of making you think it was some superhero type stuff, but then he learns from his parents.
Your mom and I sold your soul to the devil.
So in a Ghost Rider-like fashion, he has to capture lost souls that have escaped from hell. I haven't seen this show in its entirety, but I remember it being freaking hilarious, the bits and pieces that I remember. The series was definitely a lot edgier than the normal CW content.
I like your thinking. I said we all get in the car, go get some smack, kill a hooker in Vegas.
So I can understand why it didn't get picked up for more than 2 seasons. It was just kind of one of those things that CW network was not ready for. Let's get into number 11. Number 11, we got All American. I'll say this, season 1 of All American is probably one of my favorite CW seasons of television. Usually when the CW picks up shows like All American with a predominantly black cast or focused around a black protagonist, I expect it to be extremely corny and cheesy, which this show definitely ventures off into, you know, that melodrama.
We're at Ohio State here, and we would like to offer you a full ride scholarship to our school. Free pay, free tuition, free meal cards, all of that. Yeah, alright. We've offered you a full ride, you know what I mean? Once in a lifetime opportunity. It's just that you ain't mentioned my mom's, Dylan, or Coop, man. Like, that sound cool and all, but them my peoples, man.
I think all around it's a pretty solid show. But just like most series, after he graduates high school, I think the show should have ended. Show us some clips of him doing good in college and just end the show. This is one of those shows that I can already tell they're going to drag out and milk it completely dry. Don't get this twisted, I like the show. Just like many of these shows, I think it's stretching out a little bit too long. Number 10, man, Everybody Hates Chris. Honestly, I'm a little heated that this is not higher. It's a really dope show, and I'm honestly surprised that CW or NBC or whoever this show was made by, I know it aired on CW, and that's when I used to watch it. I was honestly surprised they let Chris Rock get away with some of the stuff they let him get away with.
Fortunately, I think Chris is a crack baby. The mother's a little delusional. She's actually convinced herself that she has a husband who works 2 jobs and that they own a house in the ghetto.
It had its ups and downs, its peaks and valleys like any other show anywhere, but as a whole, man, Everybody Hates Chris was freaking solid. If we're counting this as a CW show, I'll probably have this in my top 5. It became sort of a cult classic over the years, but on its initial release, the reviews weren't very great. This series was basically Chris Rock's stage material, broken down into pretty much a long-form skit format, but told like a sitcom. And to me, that is just genius, man. Way ahead of its time. Glad to see that over the years it's been getting a little bit more recognition of being the dope show that it is. Number 9, they have Riverdale. I clearly can tell around the age of the person who made this list, and you're insane if you put Riverdale over Everybody Hates Chris. Riverdale has 1 good season. The rest is wacky as hell. There's magic and monsters and weird dungeon and dragon games, and Archie is like this character that literally everybody in the show wants to smash. I'm not a fan, but if you are, more power to you. And coming in at number 8, we got Black Lightning. Now look, objectively, I am not mad at this placement at all. I think objectively that's a pretty solid placement for Black Lightning. Super strong season 1, a really strong season 2, and a pretty solid and serviceable season 3. As far as longevity goes, it was kind of doomed from the beginning. As soon as they started doing the Crisis on Infinite Earth storyline, we pretty much knew this was going to be one of the stories that was going to fall by the wayside. It's just not really any room for the tone of Black Lightning to fit anywhere else in the Arrowverse. Like, I couldn't see him interacting much with Flash. I couldn't see him going on missions with the Legends. I love this show for one of the same reasons I said about Superman and Lois. It just felt like its own contained thing. This show was attempting at being the superhero family show, and I think at what it was trying to do, it succeeded and did that pretty perfectly. And if you didn't know, this is one of the highest rated, actually I believe it is the highest rated show in the Arrowverse. Even though I wish we could have seen stories continue, I'm glad it ended it that way. It didn't have that chance to get tainted and go sour over time. The 100 at number 7. Not a bad placement at number 7 either, but I might just bump this up a couple spots too. CW specializes in YA television, which is young adult television, teen dramas. This is no different, but it's teen drama mixed with apocalyptic storytelling. I've only seen 2 or 3 seasons, and this series has about 7 seasons, 8 maybe. I can't speak to how it aged over time. It very well could have went on a sharp decline, but the first 2 or 3 seasons that I saw were pretty damn good. The budget was great. The set pieces were great. It seemed like whoever directed this and wrote this thing really understood how to utilize a small budget. I'm not a person who cops out to the small budget excuse when it comes to TV shows. A part of being a creator and an artist is being resourceful. Is there melodrama in this? Of course, it's a teen drama, but really freaking solid. Number 6, iZombie. I figured there would be another show to pop up on this that I never watched. I just never watched iZombie. It always pops up on my Netflix telling me to watch it, but I just never have. In this article, they described iZombie as Buffy the Vampire Slayer meets Veronica Mars. So basically the main character is a medical student and she goes out partying. Something happens that turns her into a zombie, so she then begins to work at the morgue so she can keep her zombiness under wraps. And obviously she works at the morgue so she can have free access to all the juicy brains to eat, because, you know, zombies eat brains. I can't too much speak to whether or not this is a good placement or not because I've never seen it, but I have heard a lot of good things about the series. So let me know, do you agree that iZombie is a top 6 CW show? Let me know in the comments. We're down to the big dogs at number 5. I don't know how long this video is gonna be. Actually super surprised by this placement. This series gets so much high praise from so many different genres of TV lovers. So with Supernatural at 5, I'm kind of wondering what the hell they have in their top 4. The show stars Jensen Ackles, my guy, done work in The Boys, done a lot of voice acting work for DC. Also stars Jason Padalecki, I think that's how you say his name. I don't know how to say his name. They pretty much drive all around the country hunting these supernatural beings and creatures. You know the premise of this show. If you haven't seen at least one episode, you're probably either like 12 or you've been sleeping under a rock. The show had 15 seasons, a lot of longevity, a large fan base. I enjoyed the show in passing, but it was never a show that I just sat down and tuned into every week. I've probably seen a few episodes out of every season up to about season 10. I enjoyed this series, but it always seemed like one of those series that would have gotten old or ran down with the format, but surprisingly it was able to keep refreshing itself, even though it did become repetitive at times, which 15 seasons, that's gonna happen. Definitely a very large feat for the CW, and I feel like part of the reason of keeping it going forward was the fact that this series has been ingrained in the CW pretty much since its inception. Though I haven't tuned into the later seasons, I did check up on how it ended. Fans were 50-50 on that outcome. Even Jensen himself was 50-50 on that outcome as well. Coming in at number 4, we got a show that you may not like, but you gotta respect. And that's Gossip Girl. Man, like, love, or hate Gossip Girl, it changed young adult television forever. Where TV shows currently and back then romanticize things like having affairs with your teacher, drinking underage, hooking up with older guys or girls, and whatever high school shenanigans you could think of. Gossip Girl took all of those things that were presented in young adult television and just threw this funky, dirty, grimy filter over it. So basically, Gossip Girl walked so shows like Euphoria and Pretty Little Liars could run. Show actually has some pretty crazy storylines. And one of those crazy story beats, Nate's dad being this rich guy who was embezzling from the company, spiraling out with a drug addiction, letting his son take the fall for his cocaine. And on top of that, his mom being in complete denial about the whole situation, and goes as far as gaslighting Nate and blaming him for his dad's cocaine addiction. And these characters are iconic or infamous, whatever you want to call them. There's been so many bad reincarnations of people trying to make their version of Blair Waldorf, failing miserably. And once again, whether you like it or not, Gossip Girl spawned so many other shows that tried to mimic and copy the tone. I agree with this at 4, and I agree with it at 4 because season 1 was amazing, but things got a little wacky as the series went on. And I gotta say, it was one of my least favorite endings of a TV series ever. Number 3 coming in hot with Legends of Tomorrow. Look, man, I love Legends of Tomorrow. This show is not for everyone. It is by all definition ridiculous, but ridiculous is not always a bad thing. I love how it leans into the goof, it leans into the camp, and it has this certain charm to it that I really, really love and appreciate. It's one of the CW Arrowverse's cheapest shows, but it seems like they utilize the budget so well. The majority of it, when they're on the Rave Rider, is just shot in one location, and there may be one other set piece in the entire episode, and I really like that because it allows them to spend money on things that they really need to spend money on instead of trying to make these extravagant set pieces. But even though it is one of their cheaper shows in the Arrowverse, I do really like a lot of the set pieces, and I love how every episode not only feels like its own thing, but sometimes it even feels like different genres of TV. They dip into the Old West, they dip into some space stuff, and I loved how they're blending a long storyline with procedural, episodic, or villain of the week television. And like I said, this show isn't for everybody. It gets extremely wacky at times. And although I do love it and think it avoids a lot of the things that other Arrowverse and CW shows do, it definitely still has its moments of melodrama. It definitely still has the stupid love triangles and the occasional side story that doesn't go anywhere. But just the element of them going through time to different real life historical events that really happen in the world and adding this layer of fiction to them, even when it does venture off into melodrama, it's just really interesting and entertaining, and I love it, man. And coming in at number 2, we got Jane the Virgin. In my opinion, this is one of the CW's best and most precise shows. It's very soap opera like, and it's that way intentionally. It's based off of telenovelas, which are these basically grand, epic, ridiculous Mexican soap operas that basically kind of operate in a heightened reality. I thought Gina Rodriguez killed this role. Her dad killed this role. Rogelio is probably one of my favorite characters in television. The family dynamic was sweet and wholesome, and this show did get really wacky at times, especially after Michael came back. That whole love triangle element was getting very played out at a point in time, but I love how they figured that out, got Michael out of the way, and let the story unfold in a really cool way. This is a show that I should not like. I should not like this. This is a very girly, cheesy show. But the writing is real precise. It's entertaining. It's fun. It's well shot. It's well acted with a really wacky premise. And I think that 5-season cutoff mark was perfect for this series. It could have gotten old, but they ended it at the right time, and I really enjoyed the ending. So I agree with Jane the Virgin at number 2. I haven't looked at this list in full, so I don't know what's number 1, so let me check that out. At number 1, they have Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
Daddy, chill.
What the hell is even that?
I have never seen this show. I think I've seen maybe 1 or 2 episodes in passing. The main actress, Rachel Bloom, actually received a Golden Globe for her performance in this series, so I'm assuming she did her thing. In this article, they describe Crazy Ex-Girlfriend as a musical comedy satire type situation. Does not sound like my bag of television. I can do some musical comedy movies occasionally. I really like Lin-Manuel Miranda stuff, but when it comes to TV series, it's just not my bag. I was not a Glee fan. I was not a fan of any of that musical television. It's just not my genre of TV. But if you've seen Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, let me know in the comments. And do you think it deserves to be the number 1 spot on a top 15 CW show list? I don't know, man. Definitely can tell the demographic of person who crafted this list together. Let me know what you thought in this list, and I would like to know your top 5 CW shows down in the comments. Man, this is Nerdy Before It Was Cool. It's your boy Eddie Knight. Hopefully this video wasn't too long. I have no idea how it's gonna come out when I edit it. But anyways, I'm out.